All right, so well, without further ado, let's get started with the panelists. We do have, as I mentioned, Dr. Joanne Watson, and now we have Victoria Burton Harris, who is who will start off our conversation. And let me just see, I don't think we have Robin here yet, and Yodit is not here yet. So we're going to start with the panelists that we have. Thank you. And Victoria, welcome. We really appreciate your being here. We're looking forward to this conversation. So Victoria is the Chief Assistant Prosecutor for Washtenaw County, and we are very thankful to have her in that position. And then Dr. Watson is a professor at WCC. She's a pastor, an activist with NCOBRA, and she's going to give us a little bit more information about NCOBRA as we get started. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Victoria.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for having me. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to be here with you, to sit on this panel. So good to see Mama Watson. I love you.
I love you back, baby.
So good to see you. I hate that we are missing Yodit and Robin, but they will probably.
They're coming.
Yeah, they're going to probably be joining us right at the 10:15 mark.
Yeah, we did start early.
Yeah, no worries. You know, we're taking today an agenda in a slightly different direction. That's what Black women do. We think needs to be done, not necessarily what we're asked to do, and that's okay. When I was asked to talk about the insurrection and like proposed, you know, public policy around it, you know, that's a quick 10-minute conversation for a lot of folks in the Black community for obvious reasons. And it's enraging. The response to the insurrection was really a slap in the face, a continuous slap in the face. And what this panel decided we really wanted to get into today was unpacking why our Black lives are seen as a threat, why we must even declare that Black lives matter. You know, this past year, the country was on fire. That fire, it was building, and it has been building for 400 years. And it really grew out of control about 4 years ago when this country elected a racist, xenophobic
baby
for president. You know, the exit polls, they showed more white women voted for Trump than Hillary. Black women tried to save us then. Black women came back after unfair losses, cheating, voter suppression, came back and saved this country. Black women saved Michigan this year. Black women saved Georgia.
That's right.
You know, Mama Watson, Black women, we continue to be pushed to the back and told to wait our turn. We have to wait, but while we wait, we still work. We work and we toil, we serve, we protect. We've created monumental change, movements, yet we are still fighting for our families, our men, our children to not be eaten alive by the criminal legal system. So, Mama Watson, you know this. Malcolm X said the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. Black women, we've been fighting for better conditions for our families, our communities, long before the suffrage movement, which is a lot of where folks want to kind of put our start. It goes much, much further beyond that. Black women, we've cooked, we've cleaned, we've picked cotton for people that saw crops as more valuable than our human life. Black women nursed white women's children, often forced to neglect their own starving child. Black women, we were beaten, raped, sold, separated from our children. We had our men murdered right in front of our eyes, castrated and hung. Yet Black women, we don't harbor hatred, retribution, even resentment. We love hard, even when the love is unrequited. We love the idea of full liberation for our communities, and we will fight through loss after loss to achieve that liberation. I often, hear Black women being praised, for advancing movements like the suffrage movement, civil rights movement, Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement, the movement to end police violence, and, really this largest American movement in history, the movement for Black lives. And I love that we get that recognition. But what's really needed beyond recognition is an understanding that Black women, we lead movements because we are on and have always been on a mission for Black liberation, for equality, for equity, for all people. The four women on this panel this morning, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Harriet Tubman, Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm, Kathleen Cleaver, Gloria Richardson, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur. These justice warriors, they sat in similar circles like we're sitting right now, not virtually on Zoom, of course, but they had the same discourse that we're going to engage in. They educated folks and they worked. They worked tirelessly, not to quote unquote save America. That's what folks like to say and proclaim so comfortably and warmly. No, Black women work tirelessly make a better life for themselves, their children, their families, our community, a community that has been seen as a threat since we were stripped from our motherland and brought here to build this country. A community that is loving, beautiful, gifted, and determined to live and survive at all costs. A community that has never been given the protection that we needed. And yet a community that has never taken no for an answer. A community that has demanded freedom, justice, and equity for 400 years, and we will not cease until we receive it. This is what Black women have always fought for, are currently fighting for, and will continue to fight for. Black women, we continue to show that we can lead the way out of any crisis, and we have the power to get folks to follow us. We know how to organize, mobilize, and lead the way to freedom, but we can't do it alone, nor should we. When Black people have equity, we all have equity because we're all connected. When you invest in my education, my mental health, and my quality of life, you're investing in someone who lives in your community, who's able to meaningfully contribute and not take away from it. Starving a community of resources, of access, power, solely because of the color of their skin, that's morally reprehensible. And it's happened on all of our watch. Our society has tolerated and many times supported the intentional marginalization of communities of color. Communities seen as not deserving of anything more, communities not seen as valuable. And we have a duty to respond to all of that. And I truly believe that, our country might quite possibly be experiencing a much needed reckoning as we shift from, more conservative ideals to more progressive, more inclusive ideals that will help us achieve the equity that we are all fighting for. But it's really up to us where we go in this moment, in my opinion. And, we have seen that we are not at all far from dangerous territory. We have seen, the Voting Rights Act chipped away at, ripening the capacity for voter suppression in recent years. And we continue to see Black lives unjustly taken, violently taken at the hands of the government with impunity. And when we leave here today, this meeting, I want each of you to leave here with a renewed sense of passion for justice and equity, a dedication to fight for marginalized people. I want each of you to be able to confidently answer the question of what can I do in this moment? Before we depart this space, this panel of women, we are going to follow in the footsteps of our ancestors whose shoulders, again, we stand on. And once again, give you a charge, a plea for you to rise to the occasion and play your part to the fullest in the fight for Black liberation, in the fight for Black lives, and in the fight for equity for all of us. And we have Robin joining us. We have Yo D right on time. Come on in the room, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. It's good to see you, Mama Watson,
My
and
baby.
and Loretta.
Yes, it's good to see you all too. And thank you, Victoria, for the introduction of what we are going to be, what you guys are going to be talking about today. That was amazing, and just right on, right on target. And I agree with you. The charge for our listeners is to go away with the passion to do something. And so, I guess my first question is to you guys is, what would that look like? I mean, don't answer now, but what would that look like in terms of us, people getting involved? I know there's a lot of ways. And Robin, I did put your link to the activities that are happening with your lawyers group. I put that in the chat so people can see that. So when you get ready and you want to announce that, you can.
Oh, well, so that was actually Thursday and we made a YouTube video of it, but we are doing another one in Washtenaw County. It'll be virtual on March 27th, a Saturday. I'm planning it to be from 12 to 2. So I'll send you guys that information.
Okay, yeah, put that in the chat. And if you ladies have anything else that we need to let the participants know, please do put that in the chat as well. And also too, that this is being recorded. So we will have this up on YouTube and our other channels so that people can watch it after this. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Victoria.
So before we jump to the end of what folks can do in this moment, because I know that's, the question that folks have, and we have a laundry list of things they can do, but I would really want to continue to unpack why we even have to give a laundry list of things that folks can do in this moment to support Black liberation and to support the movement for Black lives. And I want to throw it to Yodeep because I know that your work in the community gives you a much different perspective. And I want people to hear from you. I want people to, one, understand the work that you do, but more importantly, the reason behind the work that you do.
Thanks, Sister Victoria. It's so good to be with you, and good morning, everyone. Mama Watson, wow, what a foundation you laid for us. I'm so glad to be walking alongside you. And of course, Robin, your advocacy in our community is inspiring, it's so necessary. And all of you really, I'm pleased to join in the work of seeing our people. Not as merely voters or even a commodity or workers but really seeing and honoring those in our community. We're a community in Washtenaw County comprised of 12% of Black folks, 60% of whom are living in poverty. That's what wakes me up in the morning is when you talk about liberation, we are talking about the opportunity to live into fully into your God-given potential. Ours is a community rooted in abolition. Some of the earliest Northern Black abolition was happening in Ypsilanti, on the south side of Ypsilanti, which has been decimated by urban renewal and other efforts, including Building 94 through that vibrant community. And we continue to see that exacerbated year after year after year. I was just talking with a client last week who bought a building on Carpenter that still has a covenant that says only white people could buy the building, as recent as 1940. So this, I think the danger, I'm going to draw upon Dr. King a little bit, the danger of the white moderate. We're all gazing upon the Capitol on January 6th, but we're a community, I believe, filled with the white moderate that knows that there is disproportionate, inequitable outcomes on the east side of the county and won't even cross over Carpenter Road. We're a community where over half of our county's budget goes to policing and to the court system. We're a community where just last year in 2020, $2 billion in capital investment came in, and yet of the 9% of Black entrepreneurs in this county, they only made up 1.2% of revenues. We're a community with 2,400 nonprofits right here in Washtenaw County. We have one nonprofit for every 150 of our citizens. And yet, if you look at, I serve on the board of United Way, if you look at our ALICE report, those are folks who are asset limited, income constrained. We haven't seen a material change in the conditions of people of color. 30% of our overall population is people of color here in this community. So I'm entering the work today and this morning and over the last 25 years, asking how, as you said, it's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. That beautiful 11-year-old boy of mine who I just dropped off for basketball, he and your beautiful son and our collective children deserve an opportunity here in the third wealthiest county in the state to have public education, where in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti schools, fewer than 15% of our Black boys and girls are reading at grade level in the 3rd grade. That is unconscionable. So I'm here with a heavy heart, an inspired heart, and I believe we've got to first and foremost center Black women, because we have put this nation on our back, and not just burden us with that labor, but come alongside us to truly transform our communities forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when you talk
Beautiful
about
words,
centering
Jody.
Black women, I think of women, mothers like Mama Watson. You know, we can't have these conversations. We can't do the work that we do unless we acknowledge how folks like Mama Watson have paved the way, carved a way out of no way. And so I want to throw it to Mama Watson, and I want her, I mean, I maybe there are some folk out there who don't know Mama Watson and what she does. So just for those few, I want Mama Watson to share a bit of the work that she's. I really want Mama Watson, more importantly, to share the history that she lived through and helped to create along that way of, you know, pay way for us to be here where we are now. So I'm going to kick it to you, Mama Watson.
Thank you, my baby. The Honorable Victoria Burton Harris, whom I love and respect. You so beautiful inside and out, brilliant and committed. I'd like you to run for U.S. president. That's what I want to do. I want to thank Loretta Codrington for inviting me. My sister who's in the audience, Gail Mitchell Summerhill, whose father attended my church. My goddaughter, Attorney Robert McCoy, the wonderful Yodit Mesvin Johnson, and all the honorable Jims present. I was born in Detroit, but I graduated from University of Michigan in '72 and was the secretary of the Black Action Movement. I scared my parents to death. I left home with a page boy, my hair on my shoulders, and by Thanksgiving, I had an afro like Angela Davis. That had my parents on their knees saying, oh Lord, we just wanted to graduate. Cut all that protesting. I did graduate, but I did protest till the end. I was the secretary of the Black Action Movement, founding member of the University of Michigan Rosa Parks Martin Luther King Cesar Chavez Scholarship Fund. I'm a longtime member of NCOBRA. NCOBRA stands for the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, and I'm on the national board of the National African American Reparations Commission, which is compelled to fighting for reparations every single day. When I worked for Congressman John Conyers, I helped him put together the HR 40. HR 40 is the reparations legislation brain trust for the Congressional Black Caucus every year. So I invited the national leaders on reparations who were attorneys and activists and movement people to work on that Congressional Black Caucus brain trust. I was mentored directly by Mother Rosa Parks, whom I love and respect, and who was as humble and sweet personally as she was publicly. She did not have a public face and a private face. She was the same way all the time. Her birthday was a Thursday. And I just want to honor Mother Rosa Parks, who was special, sweet, humble, gracious, but she was also revolutionary. In the same manner that our sister Victoria talked about Black women, Mother Rosa Parks was fighting and carrying on liberation-minded activities until she left here. I declare she was. She was magnificent. On the day she passed away, I was sitting on my couch, sadly watching the news coverage of her death. And one of some anchor, some knucklehead anchor started saying Rosa's body and Rosa's funeral. I called the channel. I said, look at here. You better put a handle on her name. I know Black women are not always respected, but you're going to respect Mother Rosa Parks. You will call her Mrs. Parks, Mother Parks. You will do something. You're half her age. You will do something other than say Rosa, Rosa, Rosa. Otherwise, I'm going to be driving out to the station. You really don't want me to do that. Help me, Holy Ghost. Anyway, I was mentored by Mother Parks, Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian, whom I love, was a great assistant to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Actually, some people don't even know who Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian was, which is so sad. At his 95th birthday, 2 years ago, year before last, in Atlanta, next to him was Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry, who was still here, Congressman John Lewis, who was still here, Hank Aaron, who was still here, the Honorable Andrew Young, who was still here. I cried through most of the dinner looking at that table of wonderful, royal African people who were surrounding my hero, Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian, who got my Father's Day gifts after my father passed. I was blessed to be mentored by the Honorable John Conyers, who was the only politician ever endorsed by the Honorable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the only one. I was mentored by Dr. Dorothy Irene Height, who succeeded Mother Mary McLeod Bethune as leader of the National Council of Negro Women, but at the same time, she created the job of racial justice director of the National YWCA of the USA and picked me out of Detroit to follow her in that role. Role she created. She worked for 2 national organizations at the same time, underpaid in both of them, my Lord. Certainly blessed to be mentored by the Honorable Irma L. Henderson, former president of Detroit City Council, and the Honorable Mary Ann Mahaffey, former president of Detroit City Council. The current status of HR 40. HR 40 was introduced by Congressman John Conyers after the civil rights redress legislation, which was endorsed by the Japanese American Citizens League, was passed in 1989, providing $20,000 and a letter of apology to Japanese Americans who were illegally and immorally put in camps in this country during World War II. Reparations Ray Jenkins, I gave him that name because he called my radio show every day asking for reparations. Reparations Ray Jenkins, who was a realtor in Detroit, he followed Congressman Conyers around to every public meeting demanding that reparations be introduced as legislation. Ultimately, the congressman did, and he introduced HR 40 every year. The Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas has picked that up. She now has introduced HR 40 and has been joined by Senator Cory Booker, who has now introduced Senate Bill 40. So Senate Bill 40, Congressional House of Representatives Bill HR 40 are now geared up to provide the significant foundation for a congressional hearing in late February of this year. Also a markup in February. There's also an executive order option on the table. There's some national celebrities whose names I'm not allowed to call, all of them, poised to roll out their support. I called my friend, who's a national spokesperson for INCOBRA, Judge Greg Mathis, asking him to please talk to Stevie Wonder, who's a friend of his, our great Stevie Wonder, and ask him, because Stevie has submitted a request to President Joe Biden asking him to have a racial justice commission. I asked Judge Greg Mathis to please let Stevie, our wonderful Stevie Wonder, know we don't just want a racial justice commission, we want it to be racial justice and reparations. We've come too far in this point to just be talking about racial justice, because racial justice was on the template, on the plate after the Civil War ended, and it never got implemented because of the assassination of Lincoln, and also because widespread white supremacy, which has reared its ugly head again in this country, has taken control. We should remember that when Congressman Conyers introduced the Martin Luther King Day as a federal holiday shortly after Dr. King was assassinated in '68, it was only signed many years later after Stevie Wonder released a happy birthday song honoring Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which received broad national support from people of all backgrounds. And that's what led the Congress to finally pass it, and President Ronald Reagan, who was not seen as a progressive president, to sign the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday bill. So we are now poised to not only have action on the legislation, but also potentially as an executive order. So I now yield my comments, and I thank you all for being so kind and listening.
If y'all ain't clapping, you better be clapping.
That's right. That's right. And you better put a handle on her name. Doctor, Mama, Mrs. If you real, call Auntie, but you better put a handle on her name.
Okay, Mama Doctor.
You hear me?
Mama, Doctor, Auntie, Mama Watson.
Oh, speaking of Auntie, Robin, you know, folks, you kind of going into Auntie territory too.
That's
We
right.
are.
I've been Auntie. I know. I'm fine. I'll receive Auntie. I'll receive it.
Oh, Robin, you know, I want you're involved in so much. And before
That's
we
right.
go further, I want you to let our attendees know the work that you've been putting down, both in Washtenaw County and in Wayne County. And, you know, then I want to kind of get into, I know you have some very strong views on reparation and you've done some work there. So I want to get into that. But first, let me kick it over to you and have you share a little bit about your background.
Yes. Okay. Well, Loretta, Victoria, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this awesome panel. I always talk about Black woman wisdom. We need it. You know, Black women, look, Black women, if it wasn't for Black women, we would still have our white supremacist president. Okay. In there. Okay. Why are you playing? Black women, we are running it. We are leading it. So yes, my name is attorney Professor Robin McCoy. I'm born and raised in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, born in Ann Arbor, went to Catholic school, Father Gabriel Richard, raised in Ypsilanti, grew up with Mama Watson. My parents, her parents, they all went to University of Michigan together. And so I decided at a very young age, at the age of 14, you know, my parents raised me to have that consciousness. I took Congolese dance, I took Black history classes. Even though I went to a predominantly white school, they were like, look, okay, you're going to school, you're gonna get this knowledge, but you're gonna remember that you're Black, you don't forget. So they made sure, okay. So I decided at the age of 14, you know, I wanted to be an actress. You know, you might see some of the you know, that sometimes I do have to act in court. Okay, I'm gonna just keep it real. Okay, I have to use my acting skills. Okay, so then I decided I was going to be an actress in the courtroom and help liberate the brothers in the system at the age of 14. And so I put that on my path. And then I have my aunt Virgie Rollins, who is the chair for the Black Caucus for the DNC and chair emeritus for the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus. So she and my dad came together and they supported me in becoming a congressional page at the age of 16 and going to DC. So I was a congressional page under Congressman William Ford. And so I did that. And then I graduated from high school. I was you know, at the top of my class, graduated. Then I went to University of Chicago and graduated with honors from University of Chicago, connected with Michelle Obama, who mentored me. This is when she was Michelle. Barack and Michelle were there. They were just regular everyday folk, but she mentored me. And she, you know, I've had a lot of mentors over the years, Mama Watson, Judge Deborah Thomas, and that's, you know, Harriet Tubman. You know, we just had a Harriet Tubman forum, Black Women Lawyers in Michigan. I'm also vice president of Black Women Lawyers in Michigan. I've been the past president of the Vanzetti Hamilton Bar, which is the Black bar for Washtenaw County. And I'm the vice president or vice chair for the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus. So I wear many hats, as many of us Black women do, you know, when we're trying to fight for the liberation of our people. I teach at EMU. I teach a class on law and African-American experience, where we start with 1619. We deal with the Civil War. We deal with reparations all the way up to the present. We've even dealt, you know, this past winter term, the fall term, we dealt with the white supremacist president, Donald Trump. We dealt with that. And so, my father and I have a law firm, McCoy & Associates. We're the only father-daughter African-American owned firm in Washtenaw County. representing. So shout out to my daddy. My daddy's been practicing. He's going on 40 years in November, 20 years for me. So, you know, God is good, because right now only 5% of attorneys are Black. So that's what, you know, I do educational programming. I do expungement, what to do when stopped by the police. My newest baby that I'm rolling out, I'm birthing it, you know, well, the Lord is working through me, is Pathways to Law School. And so we're, you know, if you have any, it's geared for high school students, college students. We come out, group of lawyers, talking to you about being a lawyer, talking to you about being a progressive lawyer. And so, yeah, we're going to be going to Ypsi High School starting in March, and have a couple of programs. And so, and I mentor, if you have anybody that wants to be a lawyer, progressive, as I said, we need more Black lawyers, women lawyers, progressive lawyers, send them my way. I'm working with folks, helping them get their stuff together as far as the LSAT and their applications. We're also, I mean, with Black women lawyers, we're, if you're a lawyer, Black woman lawyer, join us, because, you know, I was so impressed with Victoria. Victoria came and she just was like, y'all know, y'all see Electric, she's amazing. She went after Kim Worthy. She went and ran against her, and now she's working with Ellie. And so, and they are like the dream team. And so I'm just so excited. So I could talk all day, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna yield the floor back to Victoria, but thank you all for being here. And I did put my information in the chat. So blessings and peace. And also I wanna honor, I got my Bob Marley earrings on, his birthday, who was also a father in the struggle, a brother in the struggle. So his birthday was February 6th. So shout out to the ancestors. So peace and blessings.
This is why we love you, Robin. This is exactly why we love you. You know, you said something that I want to just kind of use to segue into a different topic. Shout out to the ancestors.
Amen.
This is Black History Month, right?
That's right.
We're here to honor our history, honor our ancestors. And I know all four of us, we don't like this concept of Black History Month. You know, we celebrate it because that's what we've been taught to do. But, you know, we believe in 365 Black. We don't believe that we should be limited to the shortest month of the year to celebrate our history, our culture, our heritage, our beauty, right? And, you know, we also, when we talk about Black History Month and we think back on the lessons that we were taught this month in school, I think Yodit said it best during our planning meeting. We tend to focus a lot on the men and not on the women that were supporting them, that were leading them many times, that were alongside of them, paving the way, not getting any recognition. And I'm talking about the wives, the mothers. You know, when you talk about the work of Black women in the Black Panther Party.
That's
and
right.
yes, and feeding our babies, right? Like we want to forget almost and almost erase the work that Black women have contributed to this country. And yet we still don't have protection. We still are fighting to lead. And we have clearly shown we can lead. Just get out of our way and let us do it. And when you
That's
do, we lead and we save you and us. This is not something that we are anti-white, that we are looking to just save ourselves, because when you give us the space to lead our community to freedom and fight for equity, you benefit too. We all do. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to kick it back to Yodit and talking about some of the women in this movement and in our history that we seem to just either forget about or gloss over.
Yeah, I don't, thank you, Victoria. You know, it doesn't fall light on me that I am the first Black CEO of the organization that I lead, Nonprofit Enterprise at Work, the first Black woman CEO. And it's an organization that really, you know, prides itself on its diverse leadership over its nearly 30-year history. And yet we still have so many firsts, including the first Black and Indo-Asian, you know, woman as our vice president. I believe I believe that we are the most disrespected humans on the planet of the earth. And part of that has to do with our inherent power. I think about Mother Harriet. I think about Sojourner. I think about countless, we speak the name of Rosa, but we've got Coretta Scott King, who often is left in the shadow of her husband, but she was a powerful, powerful sister, as was Betty Shabazz, right? I'm reading this book right now about how we get free. And in it, it talks about the Combahee River Collective. These were women 50 years ago who were gathering, Black women of all identities, but they were pushing back on the intersection of our identities, right? That we have both been disrespected by white America, and we have been left to be in conflict with Black men in America. And at the root of that is patriarchy. At the root of that, obviously, is racism and white supremacy. And we cannot have this conversation if we don't talk about capitalism, if we don't talk about racialized capitalism, and the way that since the dawn of this country, the labor of Black women, Black and brown women bodies has built whole economies, right? Has built whole economies. This party, this Democratic Party by which we're in front of, shunned away from that big, Black, beautiful gap tooth Stacey Abrams, because they're not ready for that, for our fat bodies to occupy that White House, right? For our nappy hair. And so although I'm so happy for Sister Kamala, we settle because we are appealing as a party to the white donor, right? You can see it. I don't want a president who says he will govern over white supremacists. I'm over that. Because when that happens, when that decision is made, if you look at Black women in labor right now, we are heads of household in the majority of urban cities. Black women are leading single households, right? And yet we are lowest paid. We are still, even with the women's work wage gap, Black women's wage gap among their white sisters and among white men is significantly less. And so I don't believe that our party, our nation, as a community leader, that we can anymore have a conversation that does not attend to the unique intersections of our identities and our contributions. And I only named a few, but we know that there are countless Black women. And as you said, when we get free, everybody gets free. Ours is not exclusive. When you educate us, we transform not just our homes, but our communities and the nation. And a final note, Desiree reminded me of this, and I want to make sure I name it, that we cannot talk about this purely in the context of the American condition, because Black women all over this country and Black and brown women all over this globe are experiencing centuries upon centuries of oppression. And so what we do here has to transcend across the globe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mama Watson, some of us at times we listen to our own history and we're reminded of things, and we sit with the question, why do they hate us so much? All we have ever done was give, love, protect, contribute. Why do they hate us so much? Simply because of the color of our skin? Why do they hate us so much? Simply because of the power that we possess? Are they afraid? What is it? What do you think?
I think there's a spirit inherent in women of African descent. I really do. A spirit that is driven by the Most High. I believe that no matter what your faith practice is, there is something on the inside that's powerful. And there's clearly a powerful spirit inside women that history has not always given credence to. So because I am one who has been mentored directly by Dr. Dorothy Irene Height and Mother Rosa Parks, the Honorable Irma L. Henderson, the significance of women pouring into me by Dr. Betty Shabazz, who told me when I moved to New York City to take the position of Racial Justice Director of the Young Women's Christian Association of USA, Dr. Betty Shabazz was sent by Dr. Bernadine Denning and Dr. Dorothy Irene Height to talk to me about the reality of moving to New York City with my 4 children, what steps I needed to take to protect them, to make sure that they were nurtured even as I worked in this racial justice position. Women, like Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune called a meeting at the Harlem YWCA that Eleanor Roosevelt, First Lady, drove her own car to. Dr. Height was there to represent the YWCA to host, but before that meeting ended, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, founder of Bethune-Cookman College, told Dorothy Height, now you can keep working for the YWCA, but I need you to work with me now. You can't, she was working with Eleanor Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune on laying the foundation for the human rights agenda for the United Nations at the Harlem YWCA. So when we consider the role of Black women in laying the foundation for all the righteous causes of this country and the world, we owe so much. We owe so much. Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired, who's challenged the racism in the National Democratic Party, as she had to endure rapes and violence and jail time and torture for trying to lead her people into voting rights. Mother Rosa Parks was not just somebody who didn't want to give her seat up on the bus. She went door to door as an NAACP official in Montgomery, Alabama, to do investigation.
Say that.
On Black women who had been raped, who had been tortured, terrorized by allegedly law enforcement officials. We don't even know the full story of the Black women whose shoulders we stand on, but we need to correct the history. It should not just be in Black history that you learn about Ida B. Wells or the full history of Mother Rosa Parks. They tell a partial history, or the full history of Coretta Scott King. I flew down to Atlanta. I was still a member of City Council, to the funeral of Coretta Scott King, because I was well aware of her sacrifices, what she gave up to make sure that her husband's legacy would always be fully respected. When I was president, C.T. Vivian appointed me as president of something called the National Anti-Klan Network, and she was on that board along with her son, Martin III. She was always dignified, always resolute, never one who took herself as a celebrity. She was serious about the mission of racial justice and justice for all people. She was serious about it. So when I flew to that funeral and represented, and the only sad point I had was that Harry Belafonte wanted to speak. He paid for the 4 King children to go to college. Dr. King didn't leave any huge endowment. He had no money. People like Harry Belafonte and Dick Gregory provided resources for the King family to go forward. Nobody else did that. But Coretta Scott King raised her children and her family and the movement with dignity. And I always want to make sure she gets the proper respect for that. There's so many who deserve to be lifted up. And most of them did it for no pay, no media acclamation, and not always given the respect they were due. So we ought to start today, make sure that we honor those Black women whose shoulders we stand on. Many of them allowed somebody else to get all the credit. We certainly celebrate Dr. Carter G. Woodson for being the founder of Black History, initially Negro History Week and now Black History Month. But at his side he was the president of the Association for Study of Negro Life and History, but at his right side was Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. She was the vice president. He didn't do it by himself. Dr. Height helped to create those who showed up for the March on Washington in August '63. But she was not allowed to speak. The only woman who was on the speakers list was added at the last minute. That was Myrlie Evers, because this was soon after Medgar Evers had been assassinated in his own driveway. But they didn't even meet her at the airplane. So she was trying to wade through that huge crowd to make it to the podium, never made it, because she was a Black woman who was not treated with the appropriate respect. Black women must be respected, must be honored, because they have certainly paid their dues. And if you really know your history, everybody is of African descent. Everybody is of African.
That's right, Mama Watson.
Human civilization began on the continent of Africa. I yield.
Mm. I don't ever want you to stop talking. You're just a walking history book.
I know, she's like a fountain. You drinking from the fountain of knowledge.
Oh, I never want her to stop.
Y'all know she's a professor as well. So yes.
You know, Robin, you teach our history. And I imagine you're not teaching our history to only Black people or even people of color. Why is it so important for non-Black people to know Black history?
Yes, I teach a class at EMU, and it's law and the African American experience, and I've taught it for 3 separate semesters. And yes, I've had classes that have included non-Black folk, white folk, because everybody needs. I feel like it should be a prerequisite, just like with the 1619 project. There's discussion. You know, they have some school districts that have adopted that curriculum. You need to know about this country, and it's not, you know, I know that there's been all this drama, the 1776 committee or whatever, some garbage. It's like, we don't need a 1776 committee. The way the system is set up, you go to history classes, and the reason you need a Black history class is because you have African American history class is because when you go to the regular history, it just tells you this, some of it is a fairy tale, but like the white people came here and the Native Americans just said, come here, you know, like Thanksgiving, or we call Thanksgiving. Come here, white people, and the white people, the God promised them this land, even though it's somebody else's land. And they don't tell you about what, you know, the genocide of Native Americans, the brutalization of Native Americans. And my background is anthropology. So, and then, you know, as far as Black folk, that we were slaves in Africa, and it was a rough situation, and we were brought here, and life was better for us because we were so-called savages in Africa, even though, okay, no, we had, like Mama Watson said, we are the original people. You know, the DNA doesn't lie. There's, you know, people, even in China, they tried to trace back the oldest humans, and it brought them back to Mother Africa, to Lucy, to the oldest woman, the oldest bones. Everything originated in Africa. And
That's
so
my people, y'all. That's my daddy's from Ethiopia. Come on now.
okay, represent. Represent. Well, I did the ancestry DNA. It said I was Nigerian, and it said, you know, it was Benin, Togo, Congo, which Congo is interesting because I did a Congolese dance with Beatrice Congo. You know, shout out to Biza, who's out there still doing his thing, teaching his Congolese dance. But it's important that folks, that non-Black people know Black history, because they have been told lies. You've been told lies about Black folk. We are, you know, you go to the DeSable Museum. I'm a museum junkie, especially Black and Native American, but generally I go do all. So you go to the DeSable Museum, they talk about how they looked in West Africa. They saw that we were agriculturalists, that we were mercenaries, and they brought us. They selected us because they knew we were hardworking people. The way that the general history books are told, they tell you lies. They make you think we're just lazy. And just like with Native Americans, like Native Americans had beautiful civilizations. I mean, why are you playing? There's even a book that talks about the Native Americans, that they were really Africans that came over. Because, you know, like I did my honors thesis, I looked at the interrelations between Native Americans and Blacks, and I referenced Ivan Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus, which talks about how, you know, because there's a traditional theory or discussion about Native Americans coming across the Bering Straits, which I don't dispute that, but you also had Africans that came over. And so what I talk about in my paper is how the reason you had times where Native Americans, when they sheltered Black folks coming from slave environments, like in Georgia, they came from Georgia into Florida, and they intermarried, and then there's a book, it's called Black Indians. And what drew me to this from the first place is because I have Native American ancestry. I had a great grandmother that was Native American, that lived, Josephine McCoy, that lived on a reservation. And, you know, and so what I don't like about the whole power structure is they got us fighting at each other's throats. Like, oh, Biden it should be Blacks, it should be Native Americans, it should be Hispanics, it should be all of us. It should be all of us. And it's, but I will say this, Biden wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Black people. So, and it's like, we need to remind him that we wouldn't even I know people have issues about Kamala, but we wouldn't even have Kamala if we didn't put pressure on him to get Kamala. And we wouldn't even, you got to put pressure on them. I mean, I sent it to Loretta when the insurrection happened. I know we're gonna get into that. I sent an email to Congresswoman Dingell, to Senator Peters, Senator Stabenow. We did, Black women lawyers, we did a resolution. We did it the day after the insurrection, January 7th. We came together, our membership did a call to action, and they said, no, you got to do something about this. You got to do something about the insurrectionists. You got to impeach Donald Trump. It's got to happen. I mean, you can't let up, you know. So what is the call to action? We're doing it. You can do it too. Reach out to your Congress people and your senators, email them, tell them how you feel. Look, I had some health issues going on, and but with that whole Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, I made sure I emailed my Congresswoman Dingell, and I also reached out to the National Bar President C.K. Hoffler, who's based in Atlanta in Georgia, and I said no. And what triggered me, I have been a children's activist and advocate. When I saw the video of her harassing David Hogue, who is a victim of a school shooting massacre, I was like, oh, no. I mean, and then she's gonna have a gun with some of the members of the squad. She's liking tweets about or social media posts about assassinating Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama. And I'm like, and because look, this is going in my 20th year as a criminal defense attorney, okay? So who do I mainly see up in there? I see mainly Black, brown, working class white folks. You know, if she was a Black person, she would have been charged while she was running for office. She wouldn't even be there. So it's like, and then, okay, yes, I'm glad that she got stripped of her committees, but she needs to be expelled. She needs to be forced to resign. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And she's the new Trump, the new face of the Trump movement. And if we don't squash it, and that's why you need Black history, because white folk need to know, white folk, Native American, everybody, you need to know the Black people, the original people. We came here, we built this country, and we should have reparations. And when you talk about reparations, what should it be? Because I thank you, okay? When you talk about it, we talked about it with my class. I feel like Black folk, we shouldn't have to pay taxes. We should have land. We should have free education. It should be, I have more of a list, but I'm gonna yield my time back to Victoria because I do want to be respectful of people's time. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. I want to go into the chat. It's kind of hard to parse through everything, but something did jump out at me, and Yodi kind of brought it up to the top for me. Someone put in the chat that they often wonder how Black people handle their rage against whites and systemic racism. James Baldwin spoke to this, someone I named my child after, Langston James Burton Harris. And
Come on now.
Listen, we're raising, kings out here, and they have to know that they come from very, very, very strong backgrounds. Baldwin said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time.
That's right.
Rage looks differently for us. Rage does not necessarily mean we are going to the Capitol, storming the Capitol, smoking weed behind a senator's desk, reading papers, defecating in a building that my ancestors built, leaving my people to clean up behind them. That's not what Jesus looks like for Black folks. So I want all of us to talk about what that rage looks like, because we certainly do have it, but we wouldn't necessarily put it in the same category as traditional rage that we just saw last month with the insurrection. So Mama Watson, Yodi, Robin, anyone jump in and talk to me and the attendees about that rage against white supremacy and systemic racism.
James Baldwin was absolutely correct. You know, when I was a young woman, a young activist with the Detroit NAACP, actually back then I was trying to change the name to NABP because I said we were not colored people. I was part of the Fight for Freedom Fund dinner committee one year, and there was a VIP. James Baldwin was a speaker that year, so I was blessed to sit right next to him in a VIP session, and I started asking him questions about reparations and his thoughts on reparations, and he sat back and he looked at me with his eyes half closed, and he said, "Young lady, before you give another reparations speech, I really think you ought to be dressed in something other than the dress that has diamonds down the front." I said, "Oh, help me, Holy Ghost! I apologize." I had, I had on a long knit dress that had fake diamonds down the front. And after he laughed at my astonishment, he then went on to tell me about rage. And I believe the Black rage he spoke of in that quote is a holy rage. It's a holy rage that gives us hope. Black rage, which has been catalyzed by centuries of institutional racism and terror, domestic terrorism and genocide, is something that is in your heart, it's in your soul, it's in your mind, it's in your ancestral memory. We can access the memory of our ancestors inside of us. There is something on the inside of us, and that can, as we work and organize to address this rage that must be addressed, it creates an atmosphere of hope. So what it does not turn to bitterness or revenge or anything negative for people who are righteous in their origin. It catalyzes hope, 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 and never forget.
You know, I want to jump on that, Watson, because it's interesting that the commenter used the word rage, and I'm holding a couple things. One is the trope of Black people as angry, hostile, violent, when that is not culturally who we are at all, right? So I want to push back even a bit on rage. A mental health professional that I know helped me to contextualize anger is depression turned outward, right? And operating in a system, a sea of white supremacy that's held up and propped up by structural racism and systems of oppression is not just our experience. What we saw on the Capitol is the descendants of colonists and terrorists who have that in their DNA in the way that we have the experience of being snatched out of our continent and brought through a violent passage into the Americas. And so what I also want to push on is this racialized hierarchy that often privileges white folks, positions us at the disadvantage. What I'm amazed by is our resilience. And I'm not talking about the resilience of the trope of the strong Black woman. I'm talking about the way our interconnectedness, the way we cling to one another, the way we live in mutuality, the way that during the 2008 economic downturn, Detroit alone, there was $1 trillion in the underground economy of us making a way out of nowhere, right? Of the way that even now, as our communities are disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, that it was Black and brown folks here and in Detroit and throughout who created mutual aid networks to support each other. One of my girlfriends put toilet paper in the office for her staff. I sent my staff home. I haven't brought them back. I told the women on my team and the families on my team and the caregivers on my team to prioritize those in their households and to let work come second. That's the story, is one of survival in a system that all of us, not just Black folks, need to heal from. And what I would ask our white brothers and sisters is to stop thinking you're helping me, Help yourself get free from this system as well. Help yourself to push back on the notion that your proximity to whiteness somehow makes your experience in this system better than mine. It don't. I want our white brothers and sisters to understand that this system makes you think that the suburbs is somehow a better experience than the hood. And baby, that ain't true. You out there with opioid crisis and suicide and your baby's under pressure and your husbands ain't coming home, honey, it ain't better. It ain't better. Don't believe the story. I gotta pull up just a little bit. I gotta give credit to the sister Tawana Petty. And if I can have
My cousin.
Come on, if I can have just 2 minutes, because Tawana said the ways we have been identifying privilege are limited in scope. The privilege narrative does not take into consideration the rich history and culture that has been historically and actively practiced in Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. It is a culture that is consistently active, borrowed by mainstream, while the people whose culture it belongs to are hated by that very same mainstream. The privilege narrative negates the perseverance, our stick-to-itiveness that Black people and other people of color have demonstrated to a world through some of the most inhumane conditions inflicted upon us. You lucky we not filled with rage, and that instead we're filled with hope. That's what you're lucky for. And the privilege narrative invisibilizes our ingenuity, our artistry, our creativity, and our make a way out of no way resilience that Black and other people of color have employed in order to survive in a society that to this day has failed to recognize us as fully human. You lucky,
That's right.
as Kimberly Jones said, that we ain't acting out of rage and we asking for reparations.
Mhm. Mhm.
You better say it, baby.
Preach.
That can't be said any better. It
Uh-uh.
cannot be said
Outstanding.
any better, because that is who we are to our core.
That's
We
right.
love. We don't only love us and our people, we love you.
That's right.
We raised your children.
Come on now.
We took
Nurse
care.
them from our breast, nurse them from our bosom. Come on now.
Yes,
Preach.
we
Tell it.
nursed your children when you were killing ours,
Ah,
ours, separating us from our children.
oh,
Still killing ours. Let's
Baby.
mention Tamir Rice. Let's mention Mike Brown. Let's mention Trayvon Martin. You still
Oh.
laying our babies out in the babies,
right.
Mhm.
babies in the street,
My
and we
Lord.
still
Mhm.
run your businesses,
My
and we
Lord.
still are your essential workers, and we still on the front lines, and we still cleaning up your shit off the Capitol floor.
Literally.
Literally.
Preach.
Nobody
I'm
talked about we had to clean up. Can you imagine the rage and the internalized pain of having to clean up a white supremacist defecation in a Capitol building that your ancestors built? You lucky we enraged.
Meanwhile, just 6 months ago, we were terrorized for literally crying out for you to see that we have value, for you to see and proclaim with us that our lives matter.
Right.
How
right.
do you think that felt?
And the world is watching, the world watches what we do. I've lived in France, I've lived in South Africa. And, so to the direct question that Victoria, you asked about rage, the way I deal with rage, because it's an anger, is I process it. Like I'll give you a clear example. With Trayvon Martin, I was angry, I was upset, I was enraged, I cried about it, I prayed about it. And that's when I started doing my programs on what to do when stopped by the police. I know the Black Panthers did it back in the day. They called it how to survive. And so I still do that programming. I have Ben Crump's book. That's a book that I added to my syllabus for my class. This is a book that could be used. You say, what can we do? You could be reading this. This could be at the middle school level, the high school level. It's 12 chapters. It's a very well-written book. It talks about the history of Black folk, Native Americans, Hispanics, the oppression in our country. He talks about specifically in-depth discussions about his cases. Even some of the cases that don't get mentionings in the high-profile cases. He talks about this Madison 9, the sisters who were trying to help with with voting, and the Republicans came after them. These were upstanding women that were out there trying to help register people to vote. The Republicans came after them, criminally charged them. They were ultimately exonerated. But again, Black women stepping on the front lines to help repair the damages to the system and still getting flack. And so, it's rage. So, and also, again, I have a background working with people who have been, I've represented children, Black, white, Hispanic, Arab children who have been traumatized, sexually abused, physically abused. So I would say you have to create mechanisms. We're in a pandemic, y'all, all of us. You have to create mechanisms. Get counseling, if you need medication, get some medication. If you got a drug problem, you need to get some drug help, okay? Because while you playing, I'm dealing with clients in the criminal justice system, just us, they shouldn't even be, they have mental health issues, Black, white, drug addicts, they shouldn't even be caught up in the system. They need to reopen the mental health hospitals. Some people need to go short-term, some people need to go long-term. While you playing, okay? Drug rehab. I just watched on Netflix, I don't know if you guys have seen it, it's about the conspiracy with crack cocaine, and it was a really in-depth documentary. It started with Reagan. They were talking about how they brought drugs into our community.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
They were
That's
giving,
right.
to the Sandinistas, all that. They were giving money, but they were letting drugs come in our country. They were saying, just say no. And then the Black community got upset about it. So how did our government respond? They locked up the drug dealers, but they didn't cut off the flow of the drugs. And Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Auntie Maxine Waters, has talked about the conspiracy to put Black drugs in our community to kill us, but
That's
it
right.
didn't kill us. It did affect us, lock us up, some of us still locked up. It did affect us, but we
That's right.
still have survived because again, we are the original people and God doesn't like ugly. You put some stuff on our community to come on us, it's come back on your community. So I've been to South Africa. I was there when they were doing Truth and Reconciliation. We talked about the Racial Justice Commission. We need it here in America. When you study about South African history, that the government, and it was inside and outside pressure, but they admitted the things that they did. They admitted it. They had Truth and Reconciliation, and they had consequences. And we need to have that in America. There needs to be, I'm a spiritual person, God sees everything. Some say that this pandemic is a reckoning, on America for all the things that America has done as far as the genocide of Native Americans, the current ongoing genocide of Black people, but again, let's keep it real. This is a ship. We are all on this ship. So I love America. You see my Black Lives Matter with the American flag, my country, this is my country. My people built this country. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not saying I wouldn't go travel, go to motherland or go to other places to be looking at African origins and other places. I'm not saying I'm not going to travel, but this is my country. I love America. I love everybody. I'm a Christian, okay? But we need, the suicide is on the rise in the Black community, the white community. So it's like, again, back to that issue about why you need Black history. People need to know the truth. Black people, white people, Asian, everybody. If the Trump supporters that were brainwashed to following Trump, they were so brainwashed to go out on the Capitol and do some foolishness. They need to be deprogrammed. I've emailed Congresswoman Dingell. Some of them need to go to jail, prison, some mental health hospitals, and some of them need to be locked up long-term, that they could be brainwashed. That's, you think about terrorists, the international terrorists, and they talk about deprogramming. You need to deprogram people right here. I have a friend whose husband was working for the FBI, but left because he was seeing the elements of white supremacy that existed. You have white supremacists in the police stations. And I know that there's active efforts to root that out, but it's like this is not a spectator sport. Everybody has something to do. You have to think about what stresses you the most, and then and pray on it, meditate, and then go in that direction. When I get angry, upset, I pray on it, meditate, yoga, all that, whatever, dance, whatever I got to do. And then I say, what am I to do from this situation? How am I to respond to this situation? How does God want me to respond? I even have had situations with Black folk when I'm wearing my headscarf in Detroit, 3 Black judges that came after me over my headscarf with
remember that.
plantation mentality. I mean, I've dealt with white people. I wore a shirt in school that said hardest job in America is being a Black woman. In high school, I had some white people that verbally attacked me about that. What did I do about it? I wrote a letter. I had a program. That's what started with the programs that I do. Okay. So I done had it from white and Black. But it's like you have to find a way to cope with your anger and channel it in a positive direction. Otherwise, you're gonna get sucked into the prison industrial complex. They got a place for you. Black men, women, children, and even some white folk. They got a place for you. But you got to go in another direction. You got to go in another way and channel your energy into a positive direction for the liberation, because white people are oppressed. I have white clients, I tell them, you understand you're caught up in a system. You know, you look at Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, and they talk about how the system was designed to come after Black folk, but we have the most penal, the harshest system in the world, and white folks are getting caught up in a system that's designed to oppress Black folks, but y'all catching hell too. So it's like, once we get liberated, all of us will get liberated.
That's right. That's right. As part of the education for people, I want to recommend another book called Should America Pay? Should America Pay, edited by Dr. Ray Wimbush. I wrote one of the chapters in that book, which was published in 2003, and you can get it anywhere, Should America Pay? That book, among all the wonderful things it talks about, is how the oppression of OBGYN got started by physicians doing practice of C-sections on African women who were enslaved without any anesthesia. The OBGYN profession was developed off the experimental surgery done on African women. The father of so-called American psychiatry coined the term drapetomania as the term to be used to catalog any African who was trying to escape enslavement. The only sane response to enslavement is to escape, as Frederick Douglass did. So the reality of how many sectors in this country, like Wall Street, like the insurance companies, like colleges, like Brown University, have been built off profit from the slave. In fact, the United States of America, which doubled its size because of the Louisiana Purchase, which was paid for by the profits from the slave trade, this whole country owes. And the Civil War was won only after Frederick Douglass negotiated with Abraham Lincoln to get Black men who had been enslaved to become military for the Union Army. And Harriet Tubman became a scout for the Union Army. So we don't, because the entire history is not properly told on purpose. Many people of African descent are walking around carrying layers of internalized oppression, self-hatred. And many people who believe they're European because they don't know their African ancestry, are walking around with false levels of superiority. So education is necessary. Education, true, well-founded education is a necessity. And that book again is Should America Pay?
Thank you, Mama Watson and Robin and Yodeep. You know, I want to close out this topic of rage. And I'm glad that you really pushed back on that, Yodeep. Because that word, the traditional meaning, just simply does not apply to Black folks and what we're feeling and how we respond to our treatment. But I will tell folks, for Black women, especially the four of us who, you know, these conversations this conversation today is not the first time that we've gathered and had it. Like I said, our ancestors have been doing this time after time after time. It is enraging to continue to have these conversations. It is enraging to continue to be asked, what can I do? It is enraging because we have repeated ourselves time and time and time again. Yodeep said it best when I spoke to her a couple of days ago. I'm tired of talking. I have limited time on this earth, limited energy, limited capacity, and I want to spend what I have working for the liberation of my people. That's it. So we are going to, in this moment, continue to repeat ourselves and let you all know what you can do in this moment, but we want you to take it seriously. We don't want to be back here next year in 2022, Black History Month, having this conversation again, because then it becomes a feeling of show. You want to showcase, Black women that you think are doing good work, that you want to highlight in your community, that you want to feel comfortable, right? And pat yourselves on the back for bringing us here. But that's not what we're here for. We are here for action, and we need you to take action. So what can you do? We saw this past year the power of our vote. We've always been told, many of us knew it, but even more of us really saw the power of our vote. I've made a list of things that you can do, and that's to take your vote, your money, your actions, and support Black people, Black women, Black men, Black children and babies, Black families, support Black businesses, challenge white supremacy in your immediate areas of influence. Make white supremacists at your job, at your church, uncomfortable. Get them fired. Do not be complicit and silent. Speak up and speak out boldly. I need you to do that. We all need you to do that, because we will never reach freedom and liberation for all of us until you do. Need you to hold folks accountable. At your dinner tables, when you have Uncle Rich, Aunt Barbara saying the most asinine, racist things, don't just sit there and think, oh my God, I'm glad that none of my Black friends are here. Oh my God, I'm glad that no one that I know can hear my family talk like this. I need you to speak up. Hell, I need you to put Uncle Bob out at the end of the day. Say, you're not welcome here, because that's not what this family, this household is all about. Do that. Make people start to feel uncomfortable so that they can hopefully lean into that and check themselves. Ask, why do I have this? Why do I have such hatred against another human being just because of a chemical? Melanin in their skin that they have more of. Is that enough of a reason to hate them? No. But I really need, this is a Democratic Party meeting. What I really need you to do, elect more Black people to positions of power. Elect more Black women to positions of power. There is no reason why Stacey Abrams was treated the way that she was. No reason at all. But again, a loving human being, a loving Black woman. She came back, she said, that's okay. I'm gonna dust myself off.
Right.
And I'm gonna keep
Stacey came with the clap back. You hear me?
Yes, I'm gonna keep on fighting, but not only for me, but for you. Stacey Abrams saved all of us. And that's what happens when you step out of the way and allow Black women to lead. And that's what I really need folks to do today, to really commit to putting more Black people in positions of power so that we can lead and lead the way to freedom, freedom for all of us. That's my simple charge. However you decide to do that, if you are knocking doors, if you are having uncomfortable conversations, if you are contributing and using your dollars, do something, invest in putting Black people in positions of power. It's that simple, y'all. If no one else has something, there is one hand. I see Gail Summerhill has, oh no.
I have promoted Gail to the panelist. She will be able to talk and will be able to show herself as well using the camera. Thank you.
Okay. If anyone has any questions for us, feel free. We do have some time left.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mama Gail.
Hey. My heart is just so filled. The tissues are already used. So now I'm glad that I can address each and every one of you. And I want to start with Mama Joanne. I thank you for being present. I thank you for all that you've done for me in my life and through my father. And you know that you will always be Mama Joanne Watson to me for the rest of our time together on this earth. So thank you. And I love you.
Thank you, baby.
Now the rest of you will be sisters because that was Mama, right?
Right.
Thank you, Victoria, for taking charge, for doing what you do best. Thank you for showing the community who you are on this panel and all of the things that you have done in the last, 30 days, and that you will continue to do with Ellie Savage. So I thank you. Thank you, Sister Robin, for your input. Thank you for just explaining and being in truth. So thank you so much for your continued teaching and the hard work that you do. Last but not least, Sister Yodi, thank you for agreeing to be on this awesome, awesome panel this day. Thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you for explaining that what we do is we stop, we pray, we listen to what God is telling us to do, and then we work from our hearts, even though we're hurting many times, but God carries us all the way through. So with this panel, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here to be in truth. And truth is important to be able to speak it.
Ashe.
Ashe.
All right, and then I got to give a shout out for Ipsy Can I Share, because we are really sharing information to people of color who have been purposely suppressed. And so everyone check out Ipsy Can I Share, because we are touching people, we're teaching people, and it's each one teach one, and to be kind, because all of us don't know the political system, but it is our job to make sure that we grab a hold in kindness and love and to teach people what they don't know. So
Ashe.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So much
you.
love and respect for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. Gail, I want to mention that Gail was very instrumental to bring this panel and this event, along with our co-chair, Loretta Carving. Thank you. So if anybody else needs to, please use the raise hand function, and I will bring you to the panelist, and then I'll promote back you to attendee once you're done asking. Thank you so much. I have one more raise.
Please, there is a question in the chat too, if you want to look at those. Annie, do you see some questions in the chat?
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Des.
Hi, y'all. This is Desiree. This has been wonderful. Thank you all for sharing with us this morning. I wanted to ask a question. We're talking about reparations. I feel like I'm so excited. I've been feeling it like it's coming up more and more and more, and it just like makes me just like just a buzz with excitement. And so just thinking about so much, like we're talking about reparations at the federal level and a lot of things that's happening and moving in that space, but also thinking about what reparations looks like locally. Like what are things that we could be doing in our own communities as conversations? So as Yojit was talking about, in Ypsilanti, what happened on the south side, and thinking about reparations on this side of the county and what that looks like. We're talking about the racial covenants of housing in Ann Arbor. You know, article just came out of how many still and how hard it is to remove those covenants too, right? And so thinking about what does that look like? So I'm just interested in hearing y'all talk about what we could do, even a push for reparations locally here too.
Well, in Evanston, Illinois, there is a reparations commission that is being funded. Evanston is just outside Chicago, by the way. So that reparations commission is being funded by the marijuana dispensers that are providing profit for that area of Illinois, and that that profit is going directly into a reparations commission that will provide access to housing, education, entrepreneurship, and other things that has been decided. And they have mirrored their reparations commission after some of the tenants benchmarks found in HR 40 in the national legislation. And there's some people working on that Evanston Reparations Commission who are actively serving on the National African American Reparations Commission that I'm blessed to serve on. So there are reparations commissions all over the country. I'm working now with the city charter of Detroit that's being rechartered as we speak. And there's language for a reparations commission to be set up in Detroit. And one of the elements that the charter commission is instituting into the new charter that will be voted on by the people this year in the fall is opportunity for certain funding mechanisms to be in place to assure that people who are the majority in Detroit are not left sitting on the margins while other people are moving forward. For example, when I was the head of the Detroit NAACP, back then Mayor Young used to say he wished there were more than 22 Black-owned buildings in downtown Detroit. But now we have one. We've gone from 22 to one, which is outrageous, unacceptable on any level. There's one Black building owned by a Black woman named Sharon Madison Polk, and that a lot of people who live here are not even aware of that, how that has been decimated, how there has been a loss of Black empowerment and ownership in their own city, where they're 80% of the population. So rebuilding ownership, not just rhetoric, but ownership, profit, revenue, respect is part of the Reparations Commission that is currently drafted in the new charter commission that city residents will be voting on this fall. So every city should have a reparations commission, including Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, including other cities of Benton Harbor, Muskegon, Flint, Pontiac. Every city could have a reparations commission. It is not something that should just be viewed as a national issue.
Yes, I think that I look at Detroit as like little Africa and Ypsi. Ypsi has has a significant Black population. So I think that we should look at, we've got a Black mayor, Mayor Lois Richardson. So we should look at having something like that, a reparations commission in Ypsilanti. We should have truth and reconciliation in Ypsilanti. I know there's been issues with the Ypsilanti Police Department. So we should have that we should have something like that where people can come, the community can come and vent about some of the concerns that they've had. And we've got Victoria and Ellie in the prosecutor's office. So we've got Delphia Simpson in the public defender's office. So we can start, I think it definitely on a local level, reaching out to your state representative. I put in the chat, I'll be interviewing on at 2:00 and I put, it's on my Facebook, Robin McCoy, Bronnie Peterson, the state representative. I'll be doing that at 2. So you can do that. I put in the chat, Black Women Lawyers in Michigan is bringing in attorney and professor Mark Fancher to talk about Black women in the history and in the law. That's going to be on our Facebook, Black Women Lawyers. I put that in the chat. Starting on a local level, like help it. I mean, when I started my programming on what to do when stopped by the police, I was in Detroit and I'd go to Detroit schools, but I made a point. I go to schools in Ypsi, Ann Arbor. I was raised in Ypsilanti. I was raised there, and they're Black children that are there and that need support. So our children are our future. So that's Ann Arbor too. They're Black children in Ann Arbor. So you can, for folks that are like, I don't know what to do, you can mentor a Black child. You can, there's some local organizations, the Boys and Girls Club, they've been looking, they have a wait list of children that are waiting to be partnered with mentors that can help them in school, help them to be successful. That's how I got here. I had parents that helped me, and I had teachers at my school that helped nurture me so I could get educated and help other people in the system, in the community.
Thank you so much, Desiree. The next is Jim McGregor. And Annie, feel free to jump in if you have any questions from the chat.
There are no
The next
questions in
is
the
Jim
chat.
McGregor. Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. A little slow on the draw with my fingers here. First off, thanks to the County Democratic Party people who are sponsoring this, and to those who brought it together. I have a couple of observations. One of them is a call out. Desiree and ICPJ have been a role model for efforts to enable the vote, to oppose voter suppression. So a shout out to you, Desiree, for that work, which is a great example of what was talked about earlier. A second thing, which is a personal observation, and this is hard for me to put into words, but I look out on the screen. I've been watching the screen with the people on the screen, all of you incredible women, incredible Black women, and listening to things that you have said. And what strikes me the most about it is that I love it. I love the image. I love the words. I love the direction, the instigation to action. And a second observation to that is that this would not have always been the case for me. So, I mean, to make the statement that I look out on this and I listen, and I'm absolutely filled with love. So what has changed? It's not been a single thing for me. It's been an accumulation of experiences, some of those opportunistic, but others, many intentional. And I have such a long way to go. And this is a piece of it. So in the category of things to do to be helpful, for me, I think, yes, absolutely. I will work to get Black people elected into positions of power, Black women to get elected into positions of power. I will work to support the actions of small units and big units towards reparations, and supporting Black women and Black men and Black families. And so much, I think, just popping into my head in that instant is, I live in Dexter. I'm on the west side of the county. I have lived both in Ypsilanti. I was born in Willow Run. I lived in Detroit. This morning, I was on the Dexter Forum, my local communities forum, and the contrasts here are many, yet in essence, they're minor. We just got to figure out how to bring them together. So thank you very much, everybody on here, and I will cut it at that.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your remarks. And yeah, that was beautiful.
So Jim, when the pandemic is over, I know you don't know me and I don't know you, but as a lot of folks' yard signs say, if folks can hate for no reason, they can love for no reason. I want to see you. I want to wrap my arms around you, and I want to have a love moment with you. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So You know, Ellie and I, every week in our staff meetings, we do like spotlights on folks who work in our office. We believe in celebrating people when they do good things. And then we kind of joke around and say, okay, everyone be like this person that we're spotlighting. So today, everybody be like Jim. Grow, learn, listen, and be more like Jim.
Be more like
that's
Jim.
our action item today. Be more like Jim.
Be more like Jim.
Be more like Jim. Put your life on the line for Black lives. Act like white supremacy is killing human beings simply because of the color of our skin, and stand up for humanity, because it is. It is killing us, and it is killing you too. And, you know, realize that, again, I say this all the time, we are all connected. And maybe that's why Black women love so much and so hard and so deep, because we know that. We know that. We need you to know it though.
Because they all came from us. Because these are our descendants. They all came from us. So of course we love them.
Say it, babe.
Right? Of course we love them. And of course we root our action and our movement in love. And this is an opportunity to liberate and love, right? We are fighting a system that that feeds on hate, feeds on rugged individualism. It feeds on perfectionism. It feeds on a right to comfort by some and none by others. It feeds on a worship of the written word. It feeds on objectivity, right? And the antidote to that is love.
That's right.
And justice, I would say this, justice and fairness. Like when I'm in my class and we're reading the Constitution, we're reading the rules, the articles of impeachment. And then you see the last time it was a year ago when they were going after Trump the first time, and then now you got the second time. And it's like what I see clearly, there are laws that are affecting Black folks, like carrying a concealed weapon. You're having a lot of Black folks, some white folks too, that are being criminally charged, prosecuted for those offenses. But then you have a president former President Trump out there buck wild, and you have the articles of impeachment, but he's not being held accountable. And there's disparities. And my students, you know, as I said, I've had Black and white students have said, Professor McCoy, how can this be? And that's what I mean. If you're going to have rules and laws, then you need to have consistency. The world looks at us too. We go around the world talking about how wonderful America is and how everybody should have a democracy, except that we've been oppressive towards Black and brown, Native American women. You know, we need to have more women out there couldn't even have Hillary. Why? I mean, we can go on a whole discussion about Hillary and I are birthday twins. I could have a whole discussion about that. Couldn't have a woman in there, but ended up with a white supremacist crazy and just still dealing with the repercussions. We all need trauma counseling after Donald Trump. We all need that just to deal with that, you know. And we got to deal with Congresswoman Marjorie Greene. If we let her out there, just keep doing what she's gonna do, you're gonna keep having more trauma, more of the same.
Absolutely. Folks, we're going to close this out. I want Mama Watson to take the last word, wrap it up, say a prayer. We need all of that. You're on mute, Mama Watson.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, the Creator is, and all is well. Please protect everyone who's been a part of this Zoom broadcast, everyone who is seen and unseen, heard and unheard. Protect them as they go forward. Protect them in their work. Protect them with peace. Protect them with security. Most of all, protect them with love. Hallelujah. Love, love, and more love. We ask all of this in your name and for your sake. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Love to all of you ladies. Love to
you. Much
you
love.
guys.
Much love.
Love to all of you.
Love
Thank you so much,
It's
Loretta.
not just Black history, but strong Black futures.
Mhm.
Thank you, ladies, so much for your presence here, for your
Thank you.
for this talk. We've had some pretty good questions, and we've had more than 80 people that's been on here throughout the whole time. So congratulations, this is wonderful. We hope that you guys will want to come back another time and share your wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for having us.
you.